Okay, thanks for tuning in. Today we have Ryan Timmins discussing Biceps Femoris architecture, the association with injury and response to training. So thanks for tuning in and welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be here.
It's good to have you, mate. So just want to give us a little, maybe a quick overview of this paper, and then we'll kind of, as per usual, move down and we'll discuss a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, no worries. So this paper's was actually submitted when I got invited by the British Journal of Sports Medicine to overview my PhD, and it's a section they have called Academy Awards. So, and basically it's just an overview of all the studies I did for my PhD, focusing on, I suppose, the effect of hamstring strain injury on muscle architecture and muscle structure, how those factors of muscle architecture may potentially be implicated with injury risk, and potentially how we can change it. So we wanted to basically 3 studies there. People with a history of injury, do they possess any maladaptations? Is there any associated measure of muscle architecture that can affect the risk of injury? And then how do we go ahead and change that with different training methods? So that was the basis of this paper, was kind of an overview of those 3 studies. It got up a couple of months ago. So yeah, interesting times there.
Cool. So obviously with so much work, there's a lot in there that was kind of condensed for this purpose. But do you just want to kind of summing everything up, kind of the big conclusions that come from the long PhD?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing for us was we started off with the hypothesis that muscle structure, also muscle fascicle length, which can be measured with ultrasound, would have some kind of effect with hamstring injury. And we knew that basically off standard conditioning principles and strength principles that structure influences function. So if your structure is altered or maladapted, then that may affect your function and potential risk of injury. And so we wanted to investigate that using ultrasound. We looked at biceps femoris fascicle length, and we found that it actually, in a bunch of elite soccer players here in Australia, around about 150 odd players that we scanned in pre-season, those that had shorter muscle fascicles had an increased risk of injury in that subsequent season. So that was probably the major one for us, I suppose the identification of another modifiable risk factor for hamstring injury. And then we went on different kind of training methods on how we can change that. And ours were pretty laboratory based, using dynamometry, just concentric and eccentric dynamometry, to see what adaptations we could drive with different kind of training modalities. And then from that's kind of grown. We've got a lot of training programs now where we try and measure this adaptation with different kind of stimuli and see how it adapts, because we now know that if we can modify this variable, we might be able to alter someone's risk of injury.
So for coaches out there, what would be the couple of real take-home messages which they can implement into their practice day to day to mitigate this risk?
Yeah, so we not just in this program, but also in a bunch of other stuff we've done, as you probably spoke to Matty Bourne about as well, that it seems to be mitigating risk is associated with some eccentric training. So we need to, whether that's via Nordics or whether it's via dynamometry or whether it's via some eccentric overload stuff with 2 up, 1 down kind of training methods, it seems that contraction mode is quite important for driving favourable increases in fascicle length, and that being eccentric training. So if we can try and implement some kind of eccentric conditioning in the hamstrings anyway, we have that overload. Obviously, sometimes Nordics aren't the most accepted exercise in the world, but that seems to be the one that drives some of the most favourable adaptations. But we can get similar adaptations with other exercises as well. So that eccentric overload is pretty crucial in driving that adaptation.
So just to kind of go off topic a little bit, but why are Nordics still kind of the forefront of the debate with regards to hamstring injuries?
I think the biggest thing is, well, from our side of things anyway, we researched it because it's one of those exercises that is got a pretty strong evidence base behind it, and it's obviously been shown to reduce injury risk when implemented in amateur football and some semi-professional football. So I think why the uptake's not as significant out there is because it commonly gets labelled as non-functional and not having a specificity component to it. It lacks some transfer into sport. So I think that's also some people kind of struggle with their inner demons when trying to implement that. So I think that's probably one of the limitations to it. And it's single joint. Can you dedicate that much time to an exercise, a single joint in the gym and all that kind of stuff? So that's always some of the feedback we get from people when trying to consider Nordics.
Mm-hmm. So just moving through how many studies did you do for this that were incorporated in this little review of your PhD? Was it 3?
Yeah, just three.
Okay. Do you just want to give us a little bit of, I know it says there, how did you do it? And it kind of goes through study 1, study 2, study 3. Yep. Do you just want to give us a little quick overview of each one maybe? Maybe just a couple of minutes on each? That'd be all right?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I know study 1, was kind of like for us was a bit of a proof of concept thing. We didn't really want to delve into the next 3 years of my life in something that actually doesn't exist and might not actually be meaningful. So we went to the hypothesis of, well, all the work that Dave's done in his previous research was people with a unilateral history of hamstring injury, comparing their good leg and their bad leg, looking at the adaptations or maladaptations potentially associated with injury. So that's what we kind of started with. The first study was just to kind of compare, are there differences in people with a history of injury? Does this variable actually exist, and does it potentially have an impact from injury itself? So it was a retrospective study. So we basically got 16 elite athletes, with a history of injury and just compared their good leg and their bad leg. Found that those with a history of injury, the leg that had the history of injury had shorter fascicles in the biceps femoris long head. So that kind of gave us a concept to move forward with. We know that this exists. We know that even though it's retrospective in nature, we're kind of limited in the implications of it. We don't know if that was the cause of injury or the result of injury. So that built into the second study, which was, okay, well, let's scan a whole bunch of people that started pre-season in elite soccer here in Australia and then see who gets injured and see what their characteristics are like. So that was the second one. We basically scanned, I think it's about 85% of the professional league here in Australia at the start of their pre-season. And we saw that those that had shorter fascicles at the start of the season had an increased risk of injury in that subsequent season. And then following on from that, we know, based upon study 1, we saw that those with a history of injury had short fascicles. Having short fascicles increased the risk of injury in study 2. So we thought, study 3, let's try and increase fascicle length. And so that's what we did with the dynamometry training. So we did purely concentric training on the dynamometer and purely eccentric training on the dynamometer as well. So, and we saw an increase in fascicle length with eccentric only training and a reduction in fascicle length with concentric only training. So it seems to be that eccentric stimulus is quite important to driving that adaptation. The concentric, possibly that lack of in-series strain, which you get from an eccentric contraction, might be implicated in the reduction in fascicle length. That was basically it. Those are 3 big studies. There's a bit more intricate stuff in there, but that's probably the gross overview of the 3.
No, that's cool, mate. That's cool. So was there any limitations across the 3 that would be worth pointing out?
Yeah, so I think the one thing with ultrasound is that, because the main outcome measure for us was 2-dimensional ultrasound, and that's pretty skill dependent. And I spent probably the first 6 months of the research program just practicing before actually collecting any data. So that's a big factor there, is being reliable and actually reproducible with that measure. And the measure itself it's an estimation of fascicle length. So we have a 4.5, 5 centimeter probe, of which you probably capture at best 65% of the fascicle. So you've got to use a bit of trigonometry to estimate the rest of it. So there is a level of estimation. But there is some cadaveric studies showing that how we estimate it actually kind of lines up with some of the cadaver data. So, but it is, in the end of it, it's still an estimation. And we only looked at biceps femoris longhead, so we kind of rule out the blokes that the medial hamstrings. We rule out any adaptations associated with medial hamstrings because we just didn't assess them. So that's the next kind of box to tick for us. So but we just looked at biceps femoris longhead because that's the one we saw pop up the most in the injury stats, the one that's easier to scan, and probably the one that's probably a bit more of interest than the medials for us anyway.
Mm-hmm. So just before I let you go, just want to give us a little preview of what's below this screen. So just move down the screen a little bit. Okay, perfect. Got the bulk of it. Excellent. No, that's fine, mate. That's fine. So obviously you're very keen to share your own stuff as well as other people's stuff on Twitter. Where can people find you on Twitter?
It's at Ryan_Timmins. So that's me. There's also a whole bunch of us. There's David Opar, Dr. Anthony Shield, who's probably the mastermind behind a lot of the stuff we do, and we wouldn't be where we are without those two. Also Morgan Williams, who's our stats guru in Wales as well. So without those three, the whole group probably wouldn't function as well as it does. So we owe a lot to them. So get behind them on Twitter as well.
No, absolutely. And where can people find this? So British Journal of Sports Medicine.
Pardon? This one, yeah, British Journal of Sports Medicine.
Okay.
On with a couple of the other papers associated with the study as well.
Okay, perfect. Great stuff. I'll put the links out and we'll get people there.
Perfect.
Cool, mate. Well, thanks a lot for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, we'll do. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate.